questions with that spiritual, actual, factual answers to questions he asking. You find them inside you, recite you, reciting the records of cash. We laughing, we drafting the passion to vary. It's time for that comedy, dramedy, all of the fanciest, catchiest acronyms. Listeners, listen, we traveling. Conscious is always unraveling. The reading you're having is mapping you back to your natural habitat. Abracadabra, it's magicless, passing it. To top it off, the host, all the classiest. Now, what were you asking for? All of the answers? What? All the answers.
Are we talking about Kelly?
Yeah.
Okay.
This will be fun. I think we can take an approach that we've never taken, which is, even though she's our producer's wife, we know nothing about her almost. Wouldn't you say that's true, Katie?
Yeah, I feel like she's an enigma wrapped in a mystery. Yeah, no, I haven't even bumped into her even a little bit ever. I think you made her up and we're just interviewing you.
And I'm going to go black. And this is my wife. Hi, I'm Kelly. Des is awesome.
Why isn't his camera working? What's going on?
Good times.
Good times.
Is that your home, Katie?
Is that what?
Is that your home?
This is my home. Thank you.
You're back home. Yay.
Yes. I slept here last night and the night before. And my first night home, my buddy Chad came over. You met Chad. He was on the podcast. He came over. I was just like, I have to come home and I'm afraid. And what if he murders me? And he was like, I'm coming over. And he just hung out while I unpacked and it was perfect. Just like dude energy, man. God.
Yeah.
It's one thing for me to be a lady with a lot of masculine energy. And it's another thing to have a dude around. I am not a dude.
Nope.
Like, I think honestly, like this whole thing really, I mean, I've had a lot of things in life that kind of highlight that for me and remind me of how not a man I am. But it's fun for me in a way because I walk around so much of the time feeling so aware of how different I am from most women. How like there's this like size 0 slight feminine thing that ladies do. And I'm always like, acutely aware of how not that I am. And I've come to be good with it, but it's still like a constant awareness so that when I get to be like a lady, even let's go as far as to say like a damsel in distress a little bit. And a dude shows up and is like, I got you. I'm like, I feel so good. Thank you. I wouldn't even know to ask for it all the time, except when it shows up, it sure is nice.
Yeah, there's a certain energy we just rely on, and we can define it as dude or masculine, but it's something different than what you have. And there probably are some chick dudes who would come over and give you the same vibe.
For sure.
You know Chad would give you that vibe, and you could rely on that. So 100%. It was definitely, yeah.
Yeah, the polarities in the world do exist. Like there are polarized energies. And then there are people who are not living in such a extreme edges of that polarity.
Yeah.
And thank God for those people because they're pulling us all into consciousness around what's possible. And polarity is like up is different than down.
And I would propose that you were also needing balance on the very energy that you were threatened by. So to have a version of that show up for you in a safe way, in a protective way, you need that. You needed that.
That makes me want to cry. That's really true. God, that makes me want to cry. He hugged me, and at a certain point, I was just sobbing. Of
course.
It was just a hug. It was like just the physical intimacy and the kindness there and like in his body and just the manness.
And Chad has that bear energy that mama, papa both bear, that bear energy that is just like, yep, I would hug him and be like, oh, thank you. I want to be,
No.
You saw when we first talked on the podcast, I kind of got a crush on him. Like, totally. I was like, yep,
that's right.
I got you. I understand. And I want to be hugged by you. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I know.
And then Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I know I've mentioned this before, but just on the masculine feminine thing, like I was way more feminine before I got married. And then it was like, oh, I don't have to balance my own scales anymore. Like I can be this part and she can be, and she certainly isn't super feminine, but compared to me, she helps cover that base. And so I don't feel like I need to compensate for that half of me anymore as much
That's
anymore.
really nice. That must be really nice. That's like, that right there sounds like exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the masculine pole of the polarity to be held by someone other than me. That would be really refreshing. You know, I don't know, this is just coming to mind right now, but I have a friend who's out here who's like married and super sort of monogamous. And then a friend who's really not and is pretty like fluid and with a couple people and they all know about each other. And I happened to spend time with both of them a few days back and separately. And they both had kind of semi-critical things to say about one another about those topics. Like one was like, you know, he just can't fucking commit. He's so wishy-washy, can't commit. And the other one was like, ugh, that guy's so rigid and like, the patriarch marriage, you know, like couldn't. They both were, it was so interesting.
Do they know that they have those opinions about each other? They do now.
I don't think either of them listened to us, but which is why I feel safe talking about it. But I think they would guess they have that opinion of each other. But I think what I was bringing it up for was really like, it helped me in the moment go sort of realize I have been holding judgment, I think, inside myself for both of those inclinations within myself. And watching them judge each other, I went, hold on. Like, and so quickly after, it was like later the same day, you know? And I was like, because I'm really into this concept. I've talked about this before, that like what we see in the outside world is a reflection always of something internal. So we can always be looking for like what that is and what the teaching is in it. And I just deeply got, I think in my mind, I've gotten this many times, but I deeply got it like through my heart that I have some polyfluid tendencies. And I also like monogamy. Like, I think I would like to have a life partner. And, you know, if sometimes me and that life partner want to bone a couple people, I don't think it's going to be the worst thing in the world. As long as like everything's clean and clear and communicated and held in a lot of love and the safety in the container doesn't get ruptured and all of that. But it was really good for me to see, because it makes me think of the same thing we were just talking a second ago about man, woman, polarity, not polarity. And I'm such a like, I have so much masculine energy for a woman, right? But lately I find myself more and more feeling, I do feel more feminine than I've ever felt internally, but at the same time, more neutral, less of either than I've ever felt. I don't go so far as to not identify as a woman, but I can really relate to non-binary energies and non-binary thinking on like relational matters and gender matters and all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's no surprise that that's another aspect of non-dualism, I would say, like non-binary, like getting away from the binary is a pretty, you know, that's also advanced thinking or advanced feeling or advanced awareness.
Right.
Any version of that you can get in touch with is.
Yeah, that's a good point. And like the more I move toward the oneness through the energy work, the more that would make sense, that there would be less rigid binaural structures within. Speaking of which, I did a 2-hour, it ended up being like less than that, maybe an hour and a half, Christ Light Divine Transmission yesterday as a class.
Uh-huh.
And like anybody could come and, oh my God, I feel like I should talk about it a little bit. God, okay. So the Christ light is the idea of this fucking God. I'm like, I can't even start talking about it. Jesus the Christ was a dude, but the light he embodied was the Christ light. And the religion was formed around the amazingness of that light at the time. But then, people turned the religion into crazy and made dogma rules and patriarchy control mechanisms and all the things that sometimes religions do and societies do to mystical teachings. But so I say all that to give context to people listening to understand what I mean by the Christ light. It's the spiritual energy that this guy brought to the planet. And he was a special wizard because this fucking light, I got pulled into it recently, a few weeks ago in a meditation. I was pulling cards while in the records and I pulled this Christ-light card, and then everything in my nervous system lit up, and the record keepers were like, do a Christ-light thing, do a Christ-light thing, lead a retreat, do a class, Christ-light, Christ-light. And I was like, what's the big fucking deal? So then I said, well, show me what it feels like. Holy shitballs.
All language that we would never hear in the rigidly formed church around the Christ light. This fucking light. This holy shitballs. This fucking Christ light.
Blew my fucking dick off. You know what I'm saying? With the fucking Christ light. Fucking sucked my asshole, the Christ light.
Let's just make sure people know what they're listening to. Every once in a while, we got to plant our little flag to be like, don't fucking get precious with us around here.
Yeah, no. And
anyway, I
told you guys about, and then I'll come back to the Christ light, but I told you guys about the recent thing where someone said to me, we did an interview and they were going to, they told you this?
Yeah.
They were going to post about it. And then they were like, ooh, we heard the challenging language in your podcast and we didn't include the link to the podcast lest people not book sessions with you. And I wrote, and I really, like, in a way, there's a real kindness in that. And I wrote to them and said, that's really generous of you. Thank you for trying to protect my business. And I said, but I'll tell you what, people who book with me, they have seen my website and they have most likely heard me say words and they know that I'm an irreverent spiritualist. So anyone who's not okay with that isn't going to book anyway. So you can go ahead and tell them. I am not afraid anymore because I've been running my business like this for a lot of years now. And people who can hang with that, they show up, and people who can't don't. And I did not hear back from them.
And it didn't get posted.
Well, the interview got posted, but they just didn't post the link to the podcast, which I was like, but you know what? I took it as a great opportunity to talk about that with them and to say, you're not wrong. And here's how I hold it. I hold it in a non-binary, non-dualistic way. Jesus the Christ, I guarantee you, stubbed his toe from time to time and said, what the fuck?
In ancient Aramaic.
Exactly.
I do not know what that is.
Me either. My God. I've had a few people correct me lately when I'll say something like, well, Jesus as a white guy, da-da-da. And people are like really clear that he was not a white guy.
Yeah.
And because he's a Jew. That's why, right?
Well, he's a Jew in a brown land. Like he's like a Aramaic Jew or something. Like he's not a white guy.
Okay.
He's very much not a white guy.
He's a brown guy.
Yeah. That's also pretty clear from a lot of things people have said.
Okay,
just from where he was in the world, where you are in the world, just determines that.
But hold on, because if you think about the folks in Israel.
Well, the folks right now in Israel are from everywhere. Remember that.
Okay.
So genetically, the Israel is just a country now. But you should think more about the people like the people who are being fucked over by Israel.
Who? Palestine?
The Palestinians. Think of that. That's more the genetic code of the region.
What about what am I thinking of? Like the deep Middle East.
Everywhere in the Middle East, people, they're brown. They're brown folk. They're not from Sweden. They're not from the northern. It's just not a thing.
Okay. So we just have I have no resistance here. I'm getting educated. See, I'm not a history person. I'm like a channeler, so I don't know. Right. I get educated on the 3D level all the time, and I'm grateful.
Just remember that everything is depicted by European art.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
Everything is taken from the European art, and that's complete and utter dookie for the most part.
But that's what I wanted to point to and go, wait a minute. So every fucking image of Jesus the Christ except for the ones where people are like, Black Jesus. Except for those. All the Jesus images are fucking lies.
All the Jesus images that you get to see because they were painted by, artists whose work stuck around because they were sponsored by the church or accepted by the state or the church. Yeah. Remember, art is also history, but it's the same thing. History is written by the victor.
That makes sense. But wouldn't you think of all the art ever made in that time, we would have seen a couple brown Jesus pictures by now?
No, there probably are some. You just haven't seen them.
I've been to the fucking the Louvre and all the museums everywhere.
But those are still also established by, the artists you were seeing were all Italian artists. Basically Italian. Pretty much Italian. Like they were all just Italian artists. And that's it.
Saying, right. That makes sense. And I get that that's why we see white Jesuses and that's why that's inaccurate. But I'm just remarking that you would think there'd be one that you would have run into somewhere. I'm like an art buff. I go to museums all over the world, actively, intentionally. And I can't think of a single brown Jesus I've ever... I can think of a black Jesus I've seen.
But it was contemporary.
And that's like a political move. That's like...
Yeah.
We are taking this back.
But historically, there's probably some Turkish art that depicted Jesus from back in the day. Maybe.
Have you run into any brown Jesus?
I think we should table this discussion until I talk to my art historian expert friend, who also is obsessed with the historicity of Jesus.
The historicity?
Which means true history. Historicity meaning the actual true historical record.
Huh.
As opposed to stories that we assume are history. Are you all right? Are you stressed out?
Whew, I'm having to do a little EFT tapping because I had some keto chocolate brownies a little while ago, and they're low on sugar, but I'm realizing now high on chocolate, which
has caffeine.
I know, and I've been off the sauce, so my body's a little so I'm just kind of tapping it out for a second.
I love this conversation, though, and I'm going to talk to my buddy and actually get some real download. Maybe we should have him on the podcast, but it'll be challenging to have him on the podcast because he's my super hyper rationalist friend.
Oh no,
and so we probably don't want to even deal with it because it just wouldn't be fun.
We could have him on what kind of, is he open to any conversations about anything?
He's my best friend in the world. We've had conversations, but when it starts to tread into woo-woo stuff, because he was raised by a fundamentalist and was a fundamentalist a little bit for a little while. He's the only person I know in my life who actually told me I was going to hell at one point when we first knew each other. Kind of casually, oh, well, no, because the rules are bop, 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 bop. Not you're going to hell, but I was like, whoa, that's interesting. Huh. And he hates that exists in our past.
Aww.
That will kill him to know that. And he knows that. I've joked about it with him. But because of that, when he rejected, he's now those are the most hardcore atheists.
Of course. I'm listening to you. I'm just taking my shirt off, so I turn the camera off.
Why would you do that to us? Why?
It's not that kind of podcast yet.
They don't get to see it.
I know, but you don't want to see all this. It's very blubbery and very chubby right now.
You don't know what I like.
That's true. Hold on. God, this fucking winter shit where you got to wear 97 layers. And then when you're inside, you're like, kill all the layers. It's not for the faint of heart.
No. Are you going through the change, Katie?
Oh, God. I am 100.
No, you're not even 50.
Maybe.
You are not even 50. I know because I am, and you're younger than me.
I'm going to be 44 this year.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yay! Join the 44 club.
Jesus, you children.
Yeah, grandpa over here.
I crossed over the 50. I'm on my way to 52, you guys.
No.
Yeah.
What happened to you?
I look good, though. Motherfuckers, I look good.
Yeah, you do.
Ain't nothing but a number. Anyway, what are we talking about? Oh, so Christ light. Let's get back to the Christ light.
Right, the Christ
so
light.
We can bring on Kelly.
2 seconds. Let me put my shirt back on.
You right? You okay?
Yeah, I just have to do a little more tapping. I'm almost there.
All right.
This shit really helps me. If people listening don't know, EFT is like a series of kind of like pressure points on your body that you can tap when you're feeling weird in any way, and it kind of moves the energy. Helps me a lot with like physical, like if I ever am nauseous or like.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah.
EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique.
Yes.
And if you, the simplest entryway is if you look up EFT basic recipe, you can just find like the super baseline explanation and a very simple version of how to do it. I recommend.
Exactly.
And I'm watching Katie basically do it.
Oh, feels good. It's like I could feel it's just I was getting too amped up on the caffeine from the chocolate. I could feel it happening. And so I'm running the phrase, even though I feel nauseous, I deeply, completely love and accept myself. And then boom, it's evening out.
Nice.
We should have a whole EFT episode. But Christ light, we're talking about the Christ light. So all I wanted to say to come back to that point was that the way I would describe the Christ light, what makes it so special is it's like incredibly bright and loving at the same time. It feels to me like golden and white and empowering and awakening and happy making and activating, but also peaceful, which is such a weird and interesting combination of energies. Whereas like, for example, if I were going to describe like the light of the Arcturian star beings, those guys are like putting on a cozy robe, like a fuzzy robe with fuzzy bunny slippers, but around your heart. So it's like cozy and warm and it's very love and soft. And then like, for example, the Mintakan energy, which is a different star nation, they're like, I always think of them like diamond dust blowing through your body, like very fine, but very sharp little granules of diamonds, like whoosh, cutting through in a very cutting way, like a wind that's cutting. So the Christ light is, I always, whenever I've transmitted it or brought it through, I've always said out loud at some point, I really understand why a religion got formed around this, because it's such a pleasing, happy making, activating, joy inducing energy that it makes, if there was a dude who, when you met him, you felt more of that, I'd make a fucking religion around him too. So anyway, it was really cool. We did that whole 2-hour thing. And like, you know, I asked people if they had a positive experience in any way to email me and just share a little bit about it. And I just had the best morning reading people's feedback about how amazing it was for them and what they got from it. And the record keepers keep wanting me to lead a retreat in April for 4 days, where for 4 days they want me to transmit Christ light at people in this retreat. And I'm just like, okay, that's a lot. It's so much to hold and it's so high vibe. It's like, I'm going to have to take a lot of like breaks and naps and go for a lot of walks and stuff. Cause it's so intense and wonderful, but intense, you know? So anyway, that's that. Christ light. There you have it.
Christ light. I love it.
Where's your wife, Desmond?
Here she comes. I just saw him get up.
She's taking over the chair?
Yeah, he's going to be not in the chair.
That's like some real shit right there. I'm going to do a little more tapping until she comes.
Oh.
Kelly.
Hey,
she's real. Hello.
Hey.
Wow, this is huge.
Nope. The Zoom's still muted.
They want me to be unmuted.
There we go.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Yes.
You're going to want to love this mic.
I'm going to want to love it.
Just love the mic.
So, hey, guys.
I mean, you don't have to like
so
lean.
weird.
It's a little awkward for you,
He's
probably.
telling me that I do have to
Okay.
do that. My husband in producer mode. I love it.
Hello. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
Yeah.
Thank you for
It's good
joining
to see
us.
you guys. Nice to meet you. Finally.
You too. I know. We were joking that we think you're not a real person and Desmond made you up.
Well, he did.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm a figment of his imagination.
Oh, I see.
Cool.
So,
All right, now that you guys are going, I'm going to go to the bathroom, so you guys feel free to.
Okay.
great.
So we're going to talk about your masturbation habits?
Yes, we are. Quick, while he's gone. What do you know?
Oh, all I know is he comes in here. He's here for a lot. Wow, I really shouldn't have said it that way. He's here a lot. So who knows? I don't know. I probably know more than I should, but I'll let him tell you guys that.
I wonder what the normal sort of, I'm sure there's not a normal, like what do wives and husbands know about each other's masturbatory practices in general? Like, I wonder how common it is for a wife to be aware of the,
Yeah, well, I think, everybody still has their like residue secret single behavior probably, that they keep in their marriage, I would imagine, just whatever works for them. But I know we've talked about it sometimes where we're just like, huh, okay, that's what you're into. All right. But like not, I don't know, there's an air of mystery around it.
Well, how do you find the time and space? Like when and where are you able?
Just like anyone else, I imagine. It's like,
well, I live alone, so I don't know.
Oh, so it's just a free for all.
Oh, just on the kitchen table, in the bathroom, wherever.
While cooking, just
at noon, at 3 a.m., whatever.
I don't know. We actually find more alone time. It's so weird now that we have, in pandemic realm with a family, it's weird that we actually do have a lot of alone time at night. Whenever the little guy's in bed, the teen is like in video land, and Des and I are both just like, wow, that day happened. Let's separate and like just be in our own worlds. We both are kind of independent in that way where we like to be in our own worlds. So
yeah,
there's, for a little bit of time to regroup. So
that makes
there's
sense.
Opportunities for sure.
And then you come back together, like when it's bedtime. That's when you hang out, kind of.
Yeah. Well, we either hang out or we are just alone.
So I think I got the impression from Desmond, maybe you don't really know what this podcast is. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. I have no idea. I have never listened to, I actually listened to the one where my friend Lisa was on, but I haven't even finished that one, but I loved it. Like, I love you guys. I love your energy. And no, but like Akashic Records, I'm completely ignorant about everything, which I was kind of excited to keep my ignorance until I could do this, just so I could be completely.
I love that.
Yeah. And then tonight there just was an opening, like a kind of serendipitous moment. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, Cassidy, will you do me a favor and do your best to explain what we do? Because I'm going to do a little more tapping while you do that. And then I'll correct you when you're done.
Great. That'll be perfect. And to explain what Katie is doing, we already told our listeners, Katie's doing this thing called EFT, which has to do with like...
Oh, I'm very familiar.
Okay, so yeah. Katie's doing EFT because she ate chocolate and has been off the caffeine for a while and is a little bit amped. So...
Oh, I didn't know tamping can help with
nauseous, but amped up at the same time. So I'm just clearing that energy while Cassidy tells you what the Akashic Records are.
So what the Akashic Records are, as far as how they operate on this podcast, Katie, as a spiritual healer practitioner, has, I would say, access to a realm that we call it the Akashic Records. It's sort of a metaphorical way of describing it would be to say that there's this giant hall of records of everything that ever was, is, everything that has an address, everything that has a mind, and or a consciousness. That's the word I was looking for. And also anything that has like a relationship. So like there could be your Akashic record, which is basically your soul's record of all time, for all time. And the keepers of these records can kind of, like in a sense, open the book and go like, oh, you want to know about your next step in your career? Well, here's some thoughts that come from your soul's record. Or you want to talk about your late father? Okay, here's some thoughts that come from your soul's record. We also have we've opened like relationship records. So it's like the three of us, for example, or the two of us, or we even opened in our very first podcast, the record of our podcast, because as soon as it exists as a thing, it has a record.
Yeah.
You know, and so we asked for guidance, like, what is this thing? And they gave us some good information. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's the very rough sort of general big broad strokes of what the Akashic Records is. Okay. I think of it, I visually see it as like a giant hall of records, and like Katie goes and takes a book off of a shelf and blows the dust off and opens it up, and the golden light shines out of the divine.
Okay, what I'll say to that well-timed comment is that some people who read the records actually do experience it that way. I have a friend who, when she opens records, she said right in front of her vision, a big book opens. And if you say like, what should I name my dog? The pages turn in front of her eyes, in front of her field of vision. and she sees like dog and like words in a book.
Wow.
And I have another friend who reads them and sees it like a big library of books, and the record keepers will pull a book and bring it to her, and then the images go away, and then she's just receiving information, but she starts in this kind of library.
Wow.
For me, it's never been like, I sometimes see it sort of like tall shelves of information, but then really quickly the images go. And for me, it's all knowingness and feeling and perceiving and hearing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as visual as some other people are, but yeah, everybody sees and experiences it differently.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like it would be a lot more fluid than that because things are evolving so much all the time. So
yeah, but at the same time, you could imagine that even if you're looking in a book, right? If it's in the realm of God or the divine or the beyond, like as you're looking in the book, anything can change. And maybe it's words one day, but maybe the next day it's sounds, or the next day it's, because it is totally fluid. It is. You're totally right. So I think the people who are seeing that kind of image, that the image is a doorway into the information. Does that make sense?
yeah. And
Does that make sense or not really?
I can't touch it, see it, smell it, hear it kind of way, you know? I'm kind of a sciencey person. So with an open heart to the unknown, and I think that there's just so much of that. So I'm just super curious and interested.
Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, what we're really talking about, just as a little tiny brush up for anyone listening, and just if it's useful to you in any way, Kelly, like people who do things like what this is, you know, the Akashic Records reading, they're perceiving information through the extrasensory perceptions. So there's clairsentience, which is feeling, having awareness through feeling. There's clairaudience, where you hear words that come through your ears. There's clairvoyance, which everyone's heard of, which is where you see stuff. There's claircognizance, where you just are given information or knowledge or awareness in your head. And clairaudience, where you're literally hearing words. And so these ways of perceiving, you could, and people do, associate them with see, touch, feel, hear. They're just, if you imagine like the subtler versions of see, touch, feel, hear, it's exactly see, touch, feel, hear, just on a subtler level that gives you access to information that is beyond the 3-dimensional plane and into the 5th dimensional and beyond. So I say that in part just to sort of almost like to honor and acknowledge science, because I'm not an anti-science person. I'm big into science. And to me, science and the beyond are just subtler and subtler aspects of one another. There is no separation.
What you understand versus what you might not understand, or to me, it's, the sensory versus the non-sensory in the classic sense, I guess. So it's cool to hear you describing it in that way, outside of the regular 5 senses that we're all taught about, and, you know, moving beyond that.
Yeah, I would offer that it wouldn't be a binary like sensory, non-sensory, but it would be on a fluid continuum of more sort of 3-dimensional sensory into subtler and subtler, more refined or subtle forms of sensory, because it's very sensory.
Yeah.
It's just, they would call it extrasensory or more subtle sensory. Yeah.
I feel ya.
Well, I'm glad you're open to it. We appreciate that. Yeah. And so, you know, usually what we do is just chit chat with the guests a little bit, learn about them, learn about their lives, what they're into, etc., as just 3D chit chat people.
Okay.
And then at some point, if you'd like us to, I'll open your Akashic Records and just take any questions you have.
Okay.
And we can ask them anything you want to know about anything at all. And so
that sounds exciting. I really want to do that.
Nice. Okay,
I love
great.
that.
Tell us a little bit, Kelly, like, what do you do for like a living? What do you do? What's your life like? What do you fill your time with?
Well, it's a very simple answer in a pandemic, but right now I am an associate director of a team at UC Berkeley that makes sure that all gifts or donations go where they're supposed to go. So it's a lot of bureaucracy, but it's a cool team, and we get to do something cool by funding or helping make sure money goes to all the cool funds at Berkeley for all the research that they do and that kind of thing.
What brought you into that work?
Yeah.
Oh, so random. I have such a random history of work, but it was really just a random interview. I just knew somebody who worked at Cal, and they said, hey, there's this administrative position open, and Des and I had just moved to the Bay Area. So I was like, okay, I've done admin work before, and they needed a team lead, and that's like the only common thread in my background is leading small teams. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. I got the job, and then I've been there for 7 years now. So I kind of worked way up, but random. Because I mean, right before then, Des and I were running a group of cottages on Washington's coast, and then before that, I was into a lot of outdoor stuff. Like I was a buyer in a plant nursery, and I did a lot of trail work, like up at Mount Rainier, and, did like a lot of field work. And then we both worked in restaurants for a really long time. So I have like a really random background.
That's fascinating. What was the thing about cottages? The reception went out when you said cottages.
Oh, it's Shakti Cove.
What?
Yeah, Shakti Cove Cottages. That was something that we were in Seattle, and we just decided, look, we want something else. We want something that's bigger than ourselves. And there was this group of cottages in the southwestern coast of Washington in Long Beach, and they were looking for a manager. And I was like, let's do it. Let's, and they're like live on site managers. So yeah, Des and I went down there and we did that for about 1.5 years with plans to actually purchase the place, but we could never really agree on a price with the owner. And we left amicably. We just didn't really want to stay in a place where we couldn't manage it the way we really thought it should be managed.
Yeah.
With our own vision. So we were like, okay, well, we can't agree on a price. So then plan B was coming down here where my folks live and where I grew up, just to honestly just be in the sun after being in the Northwest for, I don't know, almost 20 years. I was like, I need some vitamin D, man. So we decided, okay, let's just go back down to California and see, what we can find. And then we had a couple of random jobs and then stumbled into Berkeley.
And then how did you guys meet?
This is one of my favorite stories. Well, this is when we were both in the restaurant industry. Des was an amazing cook for this, I would say, like kind of gourmet little Italian restaurant that
I didn't know Des was a chefy type.
Oh, yeah. For 15 years, I think. 10, 15 years.
What?
Oh, 20. Okay.
No.
And he's
in the restaurant
60.
industry, yeah.
That's the crazy thing.
And he is not 60. No. He is a silver fox, but 40's silver fox. Yeah, no, so I was in the restaurant industry too, and my friend Kiara ended up working with him, and it was, I think, his first day. We just told this story to the kids, actually, which is pretty funny, but it was his first day, and Kiara, it was kind of a small place, and she ended up picking up a tray of like coffee mugs or something and then just dumping them all over the ground. They just shattered everywhere, and she was like, oh shit. And Des looked over the counter and was like, don't worry, Jesus and I love you. And she just thought that was hilarious. And so she came home that day, or we went out and had some wine later or something. She's like, oh my God, this new guy is so hilarious at work. Like he just totally saved me. Because the owner was kind of intense, Anthony. He was super intense. So when she shattered all the cups, she was super nervous. And so Des made her feel better. So that was like my first awareness of Des, was that he was this funny guy that made my friend feel better in a restaurant. And then a year later, I met him at a party that she threw. It was like a bonfire in a backyard in Seattle, where I met him across the fire, where I couldn't see him, but I could hear him. And we were talking and we were laughing super hard. And he was just saying the most outrageous, hilarious things. And I was like, this guy's hysterical. He's so much fun. And he could see me, but I couldn't see him. And so later on, we finally moved around the yard where we could see each other. And then he and another friend of mine ended up going to a bowling alley super late afterwards. And we were there until 4 a.m. or something. And then I gave him a ride home, and that was that. But then he asked my friend Kiara the next day for our phone numbers.
Both of you?
Both of ours, which I thought was hilarious.
Wow.
Not just my phone number, but my friends as well.
What was his angle there?
Just increasing his odds, covering his bases, you know.
Yeah. I'm just going to spread this out.
Wow.
Well, we had fun, like all three of us. So I wasn't surprised that he was like, well, I'll just hang out with these girls sometime, you know? Yeah. I think Kiara knew though, because she was like, yeah, here's such and such's number. And then the beautiful Kelly's number is, you know, just like egging him on, I think. And then he called me and then we went out for like every Saturday for a while. We were like super chill about it. It was like the first time I was really chill about a relationship where I didn't just like dive in and go, this is happening. It was like very mature, very, it was like, I wasn't really into like dating either. And he was like the first date, like, I don't know, situation I'd had. Usually it's like you meet through a group of friends and then you end up hanging out, at least for me, because I wasn't really into a dating scene. I can't imagine now. I would be the worst. I would just feel like,
I think we all say that though. Like, I don't think anybody's good at dating. Dating is a...
I don't know. I have some friends who are really like, they're pretty good at it. I don't know.
I have a theory on this. I think that people who are really sensitive, creative, open-hearted, empath people have a hard time dating because a lot of what dating is like chit chat and meet people and don't take it personally and just do another one and another one. And you kind of got to be a little less open and a little more, I'll say the wrong words now, but like a little more shut down or a little more guarded. And if you have more guarding, I think you can just like roll through people and go on dates and say words and it doesn't hit you the same, you know, way that we sensitives have.
Yeah, I'm a total sensey that way. So I would, it would be weird, I think, for me.
But I would also propose that maybe it's how it's, when it's right, when it's quote right, you don't feel the pressure to like, okay, now we're in a relationship because you're just like, good, I'm going to go hang out with that person again. And so you're dating. At that point, you're dating, but it's not out of a sense of like urgency or because it feels right. You're like, I mean, I'm speaking from some experience. When I've had successfully dated, it's been because there wasn't an energy of like, I got to make this work or it was just like, no, you're fucking cool and I want to be around you. So let's keep doing this until we decide it's something more.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds very healthy.
I was going to ask you though, and for your interpretation, Kelly, is that how you would frame why it was that chill with Des, or would you frame it differently? Why was it so chill and every Saturday with him?
I think because there wasn't a lot of pressure. I think we hit it off, but for him especially, he was not, I think what I really liked about him is he was not hyper about the relationship. Like he was, and that intrigued me. There was no gameplay, you know, any of that stuff. Like, is he going to call me after 3 days? Like that type of thing. There was none of that. It was just very authentic. So yeah, I think we just clicked and there was no like insecurity. It was just like, hey, yeah, I do want to see you next Saturday. And also for that booty call, maybe on Thursday. And then whatever,
okay.
You know, like there's some of that mixed in too, but it was nice. So there was passion, but there was no fear.
Fear.
Yeah, no drama.
I like that. No fear though. That's
really good.
Because I think that drives a lot of that sort of energy of like, locking it down or like, you know, it's out of it. It's because you're less comfortable or feel less safe.
That's
maybe.
right. That's a good point.
And I'm totally forgetting why we were both more chill though. It's because we were both each other's rebounds. So which was weird. We had he had just broken up with somebody he'd been going out with for 2 or 3 years, and then I broke up with somebody I'd been going out with for like 5 years. So
wow.
And it was just like a few months later. So I don't think either one of us, again, that just made it so that there was no pressure. We were like, we're just enjoying ourselves. We can't be in a relationship right now. And then
that's good.
Yeah. Oh, and also I was going to leave to study abroad. I was in college then about 6 months later. So that also was like a bookended, like, well, we don't know what's going to happen when I leave.
And next you're going to be like, and we both were high on heroin the whole time. Yeah. I forgot. It was a lot of heroin, very mellow.
That's right. Also, yeah. No, yeah. I just forgot that was that was definitely a lot of it was like, we have this fleeting moment. It's probably not going to be a thing. So there were no expectations, which, was pretty cool.
That's always helpful.
I think it surprised us both.
Huh.
Yeah.
Was there a point you can remember in the process where you went, oh, shit, I'm kind of like super into this?
Yeah. Well, we both had that moment, I think, and it was before I left because we had about 6 months together, I think, and then I went to Costa Rica for 3 months, and I was super excited about that, but didn't want to leave this guy and was worried about what would happen when I was gone, and we had just been getting really close. So I don't know. We talked about it. He was really sweet. He told me this afterwards, but that he wanted to tell me that he loved me before I left, but that he didn't, so that I wouldn't have like a marred experience or like a less.
Oh, Desmond!
I know. He's so awesome.
You.
I know. Son of a bitch.
You fucking gem.
He is a fucking gem. That is like how you describe Desmond,
gem.
for sure. A fucking gem. Yeah, he's amazing. So that was very cool. And after I heard that, when I came back, of course, I was like, oh, you're amazing.
Oh,
so it was cool.
Yay. Okay, I have the randomest thought I want to share with both of you that is
awesome.
Entirely unrelated to anything you just said.
Perfect.
And I don't know where it's coming from, but it does have to do with relationships. And I just want to hear what you guys, just as humans, have to say about this comment. So I was dating someone who, our first dating go around, it ended badly because he had like a crazy temper that revealed itself. And then I was like, I'm terrified of you. It's bye. And then we broke up. And then time went by and there was a strong connection, and I dated some people and he dated some people, and we started being friends. And then we were friends for like months and months and months. And then we got back together, and I went to visit him. And the first thing he said to me, he was living abroad, and I flew somewhere to go see him. And I get off the plane, or I walk into his space, wherever it was. And he was like, huh. And I said, he's looking me up and down, and I go, yeah. And he goes, you look matronly.
What?
And I said, what?
I hope you slapped him next.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I said, what? And he said, yeah, usually it takes women having kids to take on the energy you've taken on.
Whoa.
And my face clearly said, fuck you, because he said, then he said, no, it's not like that. Don't turn it into something negative. It's not like that.
Gaslighter.
Yeah. And then I was like, how am I supposed to take that? Like, how is there any compliment in that at all? And he was like, well, it's not a compliment. It's just a statement of what is.
Because I deem what is my statement of reality.
So let's just say that was our first moment of me in another country with him going like, I've got 4 days here.
I've made a terrible mistake.
I gotta go. Yeah. And then the universe, being kind and benevolent as it sometimes is,
a bus came along.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
You mean and hit him and killed him? I wish. No.
That's really dark. Sorry. I don't know how dark you guys get.
Hey,
pretty
girl,
bad.
As dark as you can imagine. That's how dark we get.
Okay.
No, I get there and I'm real put off and hurt, and like he's giving me this kind of like, well, if you have to process this, that's your stuff kind of thing. And I'm like, you basically just told me I'm like fat or old or both. I don't know what you just said.
And in a way that I don't approve of. That he doesn't approve of.
But he was claiming to not approve of it, but it clearly had judgment in it. It was terrible. And then
what is up with that guy?
He's the living worst. And then other stuff happened. Oh, I know. Then we had shortly thereafter, we were renting a car, and he fully went off on the car dealer guy who didn't speak English. And these are, oh God, I can't believe I'm telling this. And these are words he actually said. He pointed his finger at the guy and he said, do you have any idea who I work for? In my company where I work, we would fire you. So you know what? I fire you, sir. I fire you.
Huh. So he's really confident
Did he just
about
storm the Capitol recently?
seriously.
Then, now here's the end. Okay. So then this is like issue 2. And I'm like, this is day 1. 2 terrible things have happened. And I have 4 more days of this trip.
Yikes.
And I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? And I'm sort of talking to the universe going, I need help. Like, I need out of here. I need a solution. Help me. We go back to his place. He's like, this is weird. My throat is sore. I don't really get sick very much, but like, I don't feel right. And he was like, why don't you just like go to dinner? I'll like pay for your dinner. I just think I should rest. I go to dinner by myself and I'm relieved. I come back. He is sick as a dog. He spends the next 3 days, the remainder of my trip, can't get out of bed, sinus problems, throat, so sick. And he's throwing money of this country we're in. I'm not going to say where we were, but he's throwing Azerbaijani money at me. We weren't in Azerbaijan. And he's like, just enjoy yourself. Go see shows, have some... So I got like a free trip to another country on this guy's dime. He flew me there, by the way.
Wow.
And I didn't have to deal with his assholery except until the ride back to the airport at the end, where the entire time that he was driving me, he drove me back. I was like, you don't have to. Don't worry. I'll take a cab. But he drove me back, and just like being in the car, I remember pressing my body up to the window so I could be as far away from him as possible. But I didn't want to like say to him, like, you're terrible and I got to go, because there was no way out of the situation. Like, the flight was when the flight was, the money had been paid. I was a little trapped. So he gets
But how was your time? Like, how was it sans him? Like the whole...
Amazing.
Oh, see?
I fucking swam with the fucking dolphins. I went to like an island on a boat in the sunniest day ever. I hired a guy to take me snorkeling. I'm now giving away everything. But anyway, I hired a guy to take me snorkeling, and we like went rogue. You're supposed to go to this one area, and I was like, take me over there. And we got on jet skis and went far, far away into the ocean. And then there was this like underground city under the water, no joke. And we snorkeled all day, me and this random dude. It was the best vacation ever because this guy got sick.
That is awesome.
You are a wizard and a witch, Katie. So I'm not saying that you made this guy sick, but...
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. The universe is kind of benevolent, and it knew.
Yeah.
It was like I had to go there to see firsthand that my initial instincts in the first time we were together, when he blew up and had a terrible temper, were correct for me. It was like not okay, his energy. And it was like, oh, okay, you don't get it yet? We're going to fly you to another land and terrify you and then save your ass. But don't fucking be confused again. And then it was like dolphins and jet skis, and it was great.
I don't know. I might put up with that level of assholery for that kind of trip multiple times. I might. If I knew that was coming.
Right.
I mean,
of
course.
It wasn't fun. Yeah. I mean, it was so unfun, in fact, that I was like texting my therapist being like, and she was like, yeah, not good. Can you get on a plane? What do we do? And then it all worked out. And the last bit of the story is like, I get to the airport and I'm so relieved that I'm about to be out of his energy field. Like, just being near him, I felt scared and terrible. So I get to the airport. And I open the car door and I look, I go, okay, thanks so much. And I'm like running out of the car, and he's like, no, I'm going to walk you in. And I'm like, no, please.
Like,
no.
Why, dude?
So he walks me into the airport, and I'm like, cool. And I'm like, okay, thanks for walking me. And he's like, well, I'll take you to the ticket counter. And I'm like, fucking,
like, for the love of God.
I get the tickets, we go, and there's an escalator, like it's out of a fucking movie. And I have to go up the escalator. And I know that the second I'm at the top of the escalator, I'm out of his field of vision. And I'm telling you, the slowest escalator ride in the history of time. And I've got my bag, and I can feel him watching me. He's down at the bottom, and I'm just like, come on, fucking escalator. And the escalator goes up, tick, 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 to the top of the fucking thing. And I'm not kidding. This is sad. This is a sad part, but also amazing. the instant my body was out of his field of vision, I was sobbing.
Aw.
Yeah.
Like, oh
Yeah.
just the relief of not being near him and not being under his thumb. It was awful. And I went into this bathroom and just cried. And the lady next to me was like passing me tissues. And I got a really good girlfriend on the phone. And I was like, I have to tell you the whole story. Anyway,
Aw.
so long story long, it was not worth it. And you would not want to do it, Kelly. And
No, no.
don't do it.
No,
Never
if I was maybe not as empathetic, or one of the daters like we were talking about earlier, who could just be like, la la la, that wasn't great, but here was but I'm getting a lot of great stuff out of it. No. I mean that's horrible.
It wasn't
I'm
good.
sorry you went through that.
Thank you. And come to think of it, I'm like, God, these abuser dudes who show up in my field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Not cool.
It's intense. It's intense.
And I think about like someone who, maybe would claim to thrive in that. I know you were jokingly say you could do it, but I doubt it. But like, whatever, sugar daddy women or whatever.
Right.
But you got to wonder, like, have they shut off a part of their entire experience of life in order to just be like, yeah, it's cool. I'm glad because he gives me money. I'm like, are you okay?
I mean, Melania Trump, what's happening?
Yeah. Oh my God.
You have to be like dead inside to a certain degree. You have to, like you said, Cass, you have to shut a full part of yourself down.
And
I'm
even so,
incapable
she
of that.
occasionally like slaps his hand away because she can't be in his energy field.
Fuck, can you imagine that situation?
Oh,
like, I
my
wonder
God.
how good the deal actually was when they first got together. Like, how good could it have been? He wasn't even that rich.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're going to sell your soul, he better be fucking Bill Gates money.
And even then, you're still going to be miserable. We know this
Yeah.
now. Like, you're not.
Yeah.
Money does not buy happiness. It helps, but it does not buy happiness.
Well, not
Yeah.
if you're enslaved for
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah. No.
yeah. So
Nope.
that was
Deal's
a good
off.
time and has nothing to do with your marriage in any way.
It's the
Well,
counterpoint.
just kidding.
You were desperate
No way.
too, maybe. You were not that she was desperate. That's the whole point, is that you were clinging to something in desperation to try and get something and
Me?
blinding yourself. Yes. And blinding
yeah.
yourself to reality as a result.
Well, I wasn't desperate. I liked a lot of parts of him and I was sad. I was in denial.
Right.
I didn't want to admit that like the icky, sticky parts of him were as icky and sticky as they were.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling desperate. I was just like, I like him. He has these great qualities. Wait, he wasn't that mad that time that he was terrible and mad, was he? And
I feel
then
like that's,
he was.
again, how probably a lot of Trump supporters feel.
I wonder.
I'm sorry, I keep bringing it
No, but you're not wrong.
And I'm not comparing this guy to Trump because Trump's in a whole level of his own. But, I have conservative parents and, my mom is very much in the Trump camp still,
God.
which I don't understand. But I love her, so I try to listen to her. And that's what it sounds like. It's like, well, but some of these values that I've really wanted to see in this country are going away. And this is like my last grasp to that. And yes, he's done these things that are horrible. And I'm like, yeah, do you want to list them for a little bit? Do you want to just, can we just go over that? Because they're pretty bad.
Yeah.
But there's this desperation there. And that's what I was thinking about, Cassidy, when you said that. I was like,
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, it's so top of mind to me now. But
No, sorry.
especially having
fine.
just talked to my mom a couple days ago about it.
It's
where-
topical.
yeah. And
It's-
I worry so much about the divide. But I feel so grateful that I have parents who are conservative, who I can see those sides of them that are amazing. And then,
Yeah.
just still am trying to figure out the mystery of why they're still part of that.
Yeah, 100%. And I have a friend who lives on the East Coast and she and I talk a fair amount. And she was saying the other day how sad she felt about, she would consider herself quote unquote liberal in a lot of ways, but has some mixed, I don't know what to say, points of view that are sort of blur the lines a little bit. And she was saying she was really sad the other day. And I said, what's up? You seem really sad. And she said, it's hard for me to listen to the news talking about the Trump supporters who stormed the castle, the way that they're talking about them as if they know, I was telling Cassidy this, and I might have even talked about this on the podcast already, but as if they know those people's motivations. Like, I know some of those people, and there's some amazing, lovely, loving people who really have values I understand, where they want equality for all people, and they think Trump's the guy to get them there. And they're doing this, storming the thing, because they think it's a revolution to liberate the people.
Yeah.
And it was really eye-opening for me and helpful for me to hear her say that, because I don't think I had ever heard anyone frame any reason for supporting Trump as having anything to do with liberating the people, or to do with like values that someone with an open heart could relate to. And so it was good for me to hear that.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I'm really grateful to have them. And my mom's the whole side of my mom's family is very conservative, and I don't see them or talk to them as much right now in the pandemic. But I always have this feeling in the back of my mind, like, okay, what are they thinking right now? And would they have done that, and why, and so I guess going back to your story, Katie, I like that you actually had an open enough heart to be like, well, there's something else about this guy that doesn't suck. Let's try to figure that out. And, obviously probably more of that was shown to you before, you went there, and he just shut it down right away with some assholery. But like, it's good, I think, to keep that part of yourself open, instead of just being super extreme either way, or shutting
I appreciate
down.
that. Mine can go too extreme in every direction. I can be like way too open to the wrong people, because I'm like, but we care about their heart and they mean well. No, they don't.
Yeah.
Well, it's what we were saying last week on the podcast, was about just like, that's fine, motivation, blah, 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 whatever's in your heart, blah, blah, blah. But what did you do?
Yeah.
What did you do?
What's the action?
Well, that's the thing, is that like, I might agree with my friend's point of view about where her storm the castle friends' hearts are, but you still don't storm the fucking castle. Like, right. We're not in like 1857, London, where the plague is killing everyone. You definitely don't.
Maybe take a look around you at the other people who are with you storming the castle. Like, who's, like Jake Angeli, the horned guy. And like
that's your shaman, Q shaman.
The Confederate flag dude. It's like, I'm not in the right place.
Yeah, I read a little thing that was basically like, I'm in a world where I feel like those people have the wrong perception of reality, but I have my own perception of reality, and maybe mine's wrong. I don't know. I don't know which is right, but I do have a measure that I've decided to apply, my rubric, my measure. If I look to my right and there's a guy wearing a Holocaust denying shirt on one side and a guy wearing a swastika on my other side, I'm in the wrong place. Like,
whoops. Yeah.
I have declared a rubric. You are in the wrong place if those are your friends.
Yep. Just never going to be on the right side of history on that. Yeah.
Okay. If I may offer a sort of counterpoint to this, which isn't, it's not even a counterpoint. It's just, if we're coming back to kind of, this is a spiritual podcast, right? And spirituality, from my point of view, is to do with non-duality and non-judgment. So I'm not saying, I wholeheartedly do not agree with the behaviors of this group of people. I 100% am like, no. However, what I think is dangerous, and this came up in a healing class I was leading the other day, is we can get just as righteous and just as angry and militant about our liberal values, and just as right as anyone on the right side can get. And that rightness is the thing that creates the friction between this. That will keep the bipartisan world alive, is that rightness. That is the whole source of the fight that doesn't have to be happening. Now, it is unjust and it is insane, the behaviors that were occurring, 100%. It's literally insane. It's crazy. And I think it's important, like, okay, I'll say it like this. In my class, there's a person who was really struggling with a lot of hurt and anger in their heart about what was happening. And we were able to talk about how they were saying that they had a real hate wall in their heart against these people, because this person considers themselves a feminist, but a feminist in a way that's like fucking angry and righteous and militant. in the same way that whoever is storming the castle is angry and righteous and militant in support of Trump and against whatever they think they're against. So it's those hate walls in the heart that we can't keep alive. But that doesn't mean you become a doormat and you don't stand up for what you think is right. And it doesn't mean you're just like a spiritual woo-woo, take no action, laid down person. But it means like, how are we approaching these conversations? Are our hearts open to one another? Are we willing to really listen? Or are we coming at everything from closed-hearted, walled up, I'm right, you're wrong? That shit doesn't fucking work. Go to any therapy session or any healing circle or any mediation with a lawyer. That's the first thing they teach you.
Yeah.
But the world can't learn it somehow.
Nope, we can't.
And here we are.
Yeah, I think for me, the line is drawn when it comes to dehumanization, right? Because when you get to a certain level of extremity, you're talking about the other side as if they're not human. or not, or that the rules of humanity don't apply to them, which was what happens with all racism to begin with, right? Or not all, but the worst parts of it. And then developing policies that back that frame of mind, like desegregation or apartheid, that kind of thing. These people are less than people, so
right.
It's okay that we're doing this, Yeah,
right.
And I think that's what I'm saying about the, look to your left. If there's a guy wearing a Camp Auschwitz shirt, he is declaring you are less than human. So
I see.
I
exactly.
That is I'm going to say, okay, I actually can't be in loving context with you until you come back to a part of the world that doesn't contain murder other
Except
humans.
That the only argument I would put to that is I would agree that you can't be in that fucking camp of people at the foot of the Washington building, because that's not going to work out. But if you and that guy were put in a room together, okay, not in the context of storming the castle,
right,
and you were trying to find a way to communicate so that there would be no more need to storm the castle, and there were a mediator in the room who could help you with this, who was really skillful at non-duality, the dream would be that you could each hold space to hear each other's vulnerability underneath each other's strong-hearted points of view, so that you would discover you actually desire a lot of the same stuff and that you're injured in some really similar ways. We're all doing crazy shit out of being injured.
Yeah.
Or fearful.
But fear comes from injury.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they serve each other, right? They're co-conflated. So anyway, my point being, the big picture problem here does not get solved through just going those guys are crazy. Fuck those guys.
Right.
That does not solve this problem. Now,
and that's what's scary about the US right now, is that most people are at that place, or a lot of people are at that place where they're on one side or the other and are not stepping back to say, wait, these are people, they're hurting, they're all in pain, whether you agree with why they're in pain or not.
Yeah.
And
or how they're expressing their pain.
Why are they like this?
And that's the question,
or how they're
right?
expressing
Is
it.
Who is the mediator? Who's going to be the voice for... Who's going to stand up and say,
who's our
hey,
leader?
We hear you and we hear you, and let's try to start hearing each other again and not separating. And, I think that's the real task of this next administration. If they just lean into politics as usual and they just go those evil fucks and now the good things, then we've done nothing. But if they can try to facilitate some recommunion,
right?
I shouldn't say we've done nothing, because even just putting back some liberal policies is not doing nothing. That's doing a lot.
Yeah.
Let's get some of these kids out of these camps and fucking the Mexico border, and we need abortion and all the things. But I'm saying, if they just do that and fix the things the way we like it, then whoever
we need abortion.
I know. Des just laughed so hard at that. I'm sorry.
I'm with you though.
He was like, wait, what? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm saying
yeah.
You get what I'm saying.
Well,
so,
what you're saying though does require actual engagement as opposed to peace, which is bogus. The idea of all right, let's gentle down the rhetoric, and find unity, which means shh. Unity says shh, stop talking.
Yeah.
Stop
there
talking
needs to be
about
conflict.
it. There needs to be
nonviolent.
It's like
conflict.
the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. There's got to be truth before reconciliation.
Yeah.
It can't just be the good people on both sides. Let's all get along. I know that's not what you're saying, but that is the danger of, not of our good president who's going to be sweet and kind, that he just go, see, it's okay, everyone's fine.
Well, I'm not talking about placating people.
Right. And that's what I think what happens when we get quote unity as opposed to.
Well, that's not actual unity.
Right.
I mean, yeah. We're talking about, listen, when you really get down to look at, okay, hardcore right-wing people are love their families deeply.
Yeah.
And love the land deeply. I love my family deeply, and I love the land deeply. So we share that. That is just fundamental human stuff. And when you get down to it, why are we supporting whoever we're supporting? There's always shared values is why, and under that is fear. I'm afraid I'm not going to get something I want, or I'm going to lose something I have.
Right.
And that's on both sides. So just if people could get the concept that everyone on the other side is just trying not to lose something they have or get something they want, we're all doing that. So this fight thing isn't necessary. We need a conversation that is well mediated. And we don't have a fucking mediator.
No, and that's the challenge.
And it's not egged on by lies that have been sown for months.
Okay, now that is a whole, now you're right, because that's a whole nother level of, now we're into now I've said my little mediating spiritual bullshit, but also we've been under the tyranny of a tyrant and a maniac and a liar and a dictator, a megalomaniacal, egocentric sociopath, frankly. And that is a trauma we have to collectively heal from.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a separate thing from bipartisan fighting. But the bipartisan fighting has been the flames of that have been stoked by these insane lies. And so then I come back to the question, who's going to facilitate the healing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is the Reverend fucking Martin Luther King right now?
I think we just have to play that episode of the podcast on a loudspeaker 24/7 all over the country on every radio station. We did it. Katie had a healing of the division about a month ago, and it was intense. It almost destroyed Katie, almost consumed her in the fire.
Intense. It was very intense. But that's the thing is on the macro level, boy, could we use a Martin Luther King right now. Boy, could we use a figure who can speak intelligently to both sides and remind each of us of the heart that we share.
Yeah.
Don't call it even spiritual. Don't call it God. Right. Don't call it whatever. What about the heart? It's that simple. Everybody's got a heart. Everybody cares about their own kids. Everyone cares about their cat and dog. That's human. We're all that. So anyway, I don't know who that is. Cassidy, do you want to do it?
Yes.
Can you do it?
I'm on. I got it.
Wow. All right.
I will say that we should interrupt this awesome flow and jump into the fucking records if we want to do it before it's too late and long.
Did you want us to open your records? By us,
sure.
I mean me.
I know. Do you feel like, are you ready for that?
We can totally do that.
Okay. I felt like we talked a lot about about politics in general, and then me and Des. So as long as you're ready after that, then I'm game.
Yeah. Okay, so Kelly, I'm going to talk you through a little meditation. Okay, it's very short and simple and easy. And then you'll hear me say this prayer out loud that will drop me into an alignment with your soul and your soul's alignment to the all that is. When I say the prayer, just so you know a little bit about what's happening, I'm going to drop into you kind of.
Okay.
And you may feel some sensations. They're all safe. They can't hurt you. I can't take anything from you that's meant to be there. I can only clear things that are in your way.
Okay.
Sometimes when you ask a question, the quote unquote response or answer from the universe might be something like an energy that comes through to transmit some healing for you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it'll be words. We don't know.
Okay.
So I'm just listening in the moment to hear.
Okay.
It would be a cool thing to think about any questions you might have for your guides, your team of angels and light beings, God, the universe, the science that is the interconnected web of all creatures, whatever. Any questions that you have, maybe sit with those as we do the meditation, and we'll see where we go. Okay. And all I need is, what is your full legal name, the name that's on your driver's license?
Kelly Trotter McNeese.
Okay. The last thing I'll say before we dive in is, whatever you can do to adopt an attitude of openness and possibility, receptivity, kind of doing your best to just for this, half hour of your life, drop skepticism and resistance. Like, pretend it's possible that something valuable could come here and that there's a voice from the beyond or whatever that could contribute. And I know it sounds silly, but actually just pretending to be open, acting as if we're fully open, dropping resistance just by being like, all right, I'll just not resist for this half hour, is a huge step toward receiving from these other subtler realms. And if nothing else, you'll just have a nice, relaxed experience that way that will be less painful. Not that I think you're going to be some terrible resistant whatever, but just as a form of coaching, just to give you a suggestion.
Oh, thank you. That puts me that sets the tone for the space for sure.
Okay, very cool. All right, so we'll close our eyes and we'll take a couple deep breaths into the low belly, breathing into the pelvic floor. And as you inhale, allowing your low belly to expand and fill with air. And as you exhale, allowing the air to leave your body from the belly up through the body and out the mouth or the nose. Inhale into the low belly. And breathing into the belly requires that you actually relax the belly. Let it fully go. Relax the shoulders, relax the chest. Allow the belly to really fill and get broad and open and wide as you inhale, with no tension in the muscles, and to contract gently as you exhale. Yeah, and the next step is we're going to feel into the bottoms of our feet, bringing the feet, if they're not already, in contact with the floor, if you can, if it doesn't mean that you have to move. And just become aware of the full surface area of the bottom of each foot. And we're going to visualize a little foot chakra at the bottom center of each foot, or like a little spinning vortex, or like a little hurricane, little spinning tornado or hurricane of energy at the bottom center of each foot. And we're going to visualize or imagine that spinning tornado or chakra or vortex is just going to keep spinning and get bigger and bigger and bigger and open and open and open, until the surface area of the bottom of each foot is a nice, broad, open window, as if you had just opened a window in your house. But the bottom of each foot is a nice, open space, because that foot chakra spun open so big that it's just space now. Yes, and that open space allows the electromagnetic field of your body to connect consciously with the electromagnetic field of the earth. This is the purpose of opening that window, if you will. Visualize now, if you will, 500 energetic roots extending from your left foot and from your right foot. So a total of 1,000 roots, 500 left, 500 right, that are extensions of your energy field, extending down into the planet through that open window that is the surface area of the bottom of each foot. And we'll see these energetic roots like tree roots. They go down left, down right, down forward, down back, down and down, hundreds of miles into the planet. Just imagining energetic tree root-like roots extending from each foot. Yes. Then we're going to see a nice, as those tree roots continue to root down, we're going to see extending from the base of your spine is a nice 1.5 foot wide grounding cord, like a tunnel or a tube or a root. And we're going to imagine that that grounding cord shoots from the base of your spine, is a 1.5 foot wide, and shoots down to the center of the earth. When it hits the center of the earth, which it does quite quickly, it immediately begins to receive divine light from the planet. Sophia Gaia, being the soul of the planet we're on, contributes divine light up through that grounding cord. We're going to visualize this now, like an abundant river of light flowing up through that grounding cord from the center of the earth, all the way to your root chakra or the base of your spine. Then we're going to see that energy flow forward into each hip socket. It's going to break off left and right into each leg, forward into the quads, the glutes, the hamstrings, the knees, the calves, the shins, the ankles, and then down into those roots that go down into the earth. So this abundant river of light that comes up from the planet flows up into us, down through our legs, and back into the roots that we just extended into the earth, creating a tripod grounding structure. Yeah, really well done. Really nice. Okay, I'm just sitting with, do we need to bring Kelly in? Yes. Okay. Last step of the visualization, we're going to imagine that floating above your head right now, Kelly, is a 3-dimensional replica of your body. So there's a second Kelly floating above your head like a balloon, like a 3D kite or a balloon. And in this 3D replica of your body that's floating above your head, we're going to say that all the aspects of yourself that could use some healing, integration, clearing, transmutation, all those aspects of self that need anything are up there in that balloon. And sometimes what we do as humans is dissociate away from those aspects that are struggling, those aspects we don't want to face or know about. We're going to say they're all sitting up there in that balloon, ready to receive guidance and healing, if that's what they so desire. We're going to visualize now that at the base of that balloon that's floating right above your head, there's a kite tail or a balloon string that extends from the base of that balloon down into the top of your head, your human self head, down through your skull, into your brain, into your throat, down into your spinal column, and that balloon string or kite tail shoots all the way through your spinal column, out the root or the base of the spine, into your grounding cord, and all the way to the center of the earth. And when that balloon string or kite tail hits the center of the earth, it wraps around the center of the earth where there's a kind of crank, and the crank begins to turn, and it pulls that balloon tail tighter and tighter around and around that crank. And as it does that, it's going to pull that balloon that was above your head down into your body right now. So see the crank at the center of the earth, turning and turning, tighter and tighter, pulling that string down and down, and allowing that balloon to drop into your physical body right now. See the feet of the balloon drop into your feet. Really see and feel this now. See the legs of the balloon drop into your legs. The torso of the balloon drops into your torso. The shoulders and arms, the palms and the fingertips of the balloon drop into your shoulders and arms. There is no rush. We take our time to get really here and now. The neck and throat, the tongue and the jaw of the balloon drop into your neck, throat, tongue, and jaw. The brain and the eyes, the ears and the teeth, the mouth and the lips, the head of the balloon drops into your head now. I mean, take one last look at that balloon tail that's wrapped around the center of the earth and let it become tight, long, and strong, forming a nice taut line of energy that tethers your balloon nice and powerfully and clearly to the center of the earth, locking the balloon in place in your physical form. Okay, very well done. Okay, and from here, we do acknowledge the forces of light now, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. Holy Spirit of God, protect me, please, from all forms of self-centeredness and direct my attention to the work at hand. Help me to know Kelly Trotter McNeese. McNeese or McNeese?
McNeese.
McNeese, in the light of the Akashic records. Help me to see Kelly Trotter McNeese through the eyes of the lords of the records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of Kelly Trotter McNeese have for Kelly Trotter McNeese. And I'm going to go quiet for just a moment here. Just continue to be with the midline of your body. Okay, and the records are open. And so I'm going to say now to the Lords, Masters, and Teachers of the records of Kelly Trotter McNeese, we're asking that you deepen, both of us, all of us here, deepen Kelly and I into her records as deeply as she can travel today. I ask that you clear anything from her system and or mine that would block either of us from receiving the guidance necessary here for her in response to whatever questions she might have. And clear anything and everything that would block her from receiving any and all healing that might come through today for her highest good. And I'm going to ask that you deepen me into her records, allow me to perceive the highest levels of her soul's communion with the Akasha, or the realm of the divine. So, Kelly, just in brief, as I sit in your records here, oftentimes right at the beginning when I drop in with someone, there's some awarenesses or energies or insights that come through. And would you be open to me sharing my initial bits of info that I'm being given here?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so the first impression I have is that dropping into your records, it's almost like I almost can't keep my eyes closed. I like to, because it keeps me in touch with the inner experience of what's happening, but there's a real brightness and aliveness and a very earthy quality to your soul. And it's like alignment to the all that is. That's very like right here, right now, practical, on top of stuff, bright and shiny, ready to go. If I had to guess, I'd say you've got earth in your chart, astrologically, and some fire. Yeah, it's just a very right here, right now, practical kind of quality. It's like a bright, practical, right here, right now. That's what it feels like to kind of be with you. It's nice. It's activating for me personally. So that's present. And there's a way that they're showing me that, like, I want to say, like, some people's spirituality is very much here and now in the 3D world, which is to say, it can be a profoundly spiritual thing to be very present to your life, profoundly spiritual, and they acknowledge that this is one of your gifts, is that you have a real ability to really be with what is here now, earth now, life, alive. And anyway, that's just an acknowledgement of the energy I'm aware of. So thank you for being here with us. It's a treat for me. So was there anything you'd like to ask or know about or wonder out loud about?
Yeah, I mean, I love that that's what you're feeling, or what's in me. I feel like that there's a shell around me that doesn't allow me to see that a lot. And I think that's my question, is how to be. I came into this knowing I'd ask a question, and I knew it would be about authenticity. And I think that's probably now what that is how do I break through that shell in a way that's authentic while also being able to provide support to those I love and humanity in general.
So tell me more about, what is the shell? Like, what is it? And what is it protecting you from?
Well, I had a revelation not too long ago about some emotional abuse in my past from a family member that I always knew was there, but I didn't quite understand how damaging it was. And it was a good revelation. It was like, oh, wow, this is not the behaviors I have sometimes are in direct reaction or defense of that. But they no longer serve me.
Right.
So I feel like that's the shell I still have, is this a lot of defenses and behaviors and reactions that I don't need anymore. So
right. So
how can I break those down?
So the way through always, right, is the only way out is through. And so we're going to get real now and intimate. Okay. I'm pretending right now it's just you and me and the whole world. I don't see anybody else. There's nobody here. It's just you and me. And I'm happen to be sitting in your soul. No big deal. So what they're showing, the first thing that comes up is like, are you in therapy?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yep. So in therapy, there's going to be a need for you to literally re-feel or re-experience the sadness and the pain of the original stuff that went down. Like you've got to process it in a real way, not from your head, but from your body and your heart, where you go into a peaceful enough state hopefully you trust your therapist enough to really drop into the emotional truth of what happened to you. And when you drop into the emotional truth of what happened to you, there's vulnerability there. The more you feel into and cry through that, and even scream and yell through if you have to, that vulnerability, that shell will automatically dissolve. Because the shell is there to uphold the fear that you have of what it would be like to really go into the center of that pain. We always think, right, if we were to go into the center of our deepest, darkest pain, it would kill us. That's why we don't do it. It would either kill us or it would be too much to handle and we couldn't survive it and we couldn't do our daily lives. And how would we keep going forward if we were to face that much pain? Well, the reality is that voice, I can't do it, it would kill me, I'm afraid, whatever, is the voice that keeps the shell alive. So our task is to dive right into the center of the darkest pit that we're carrying and move through the sad feelings, rage. I get that there's some rage too. Rage, anger, fury, all of that is very appropriate in response to what happened to you. But there is no way out of it without admitting in a visceral way just how fucking pissed off you are and just how brokenhearted it made you feel to be treated how you were treated. Then as the emotions process through you, it's like organically the shell begins to drop. Does that make some sense?
Absolutely. I think what's hard for me is I feel like I get close to experiencing that and I think, oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's it. And then there's another layer that I didn't know was there. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Now,
so I think
another piece of this, if I may, okay,
yeah,
is practicing telling the truth in the moment. So there's therapy, which is a nice, safe space, and you can kind of compartmentalize that away from your life in a way. And then there's telling the truth in the moment, the emotional truth. Now, sometimes a smart way to start with this is to journal the emotional truth in the moment. Because you might not be ready to say to Desmond, when you chew your food like that, it makes me want to push you off a fucking cliff.
Des is dying right now laughing because I just journal all the time and we joke about it. And B, because I have misophonia where I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
Where I do frequently tell him and the boys, like, look, I'm going to eat in the bedroom because y'all are pigs. I can't handle it.
Oh my God, I love it.
The crunching is insane.
Do you know
and they laugh at me.
How often this happens that I come up with what I think is a random example and the person goes, my mother was a penguin, or whatever random fucking thing I said. That's great.
Yeah. It's just funny having Des like cackle
of course,
right next to me.
Of course. Now, here's another bit. They're giving me info fast, so I'm just going to keep rolling with it. That there's a sensitivity to you, Kelly, that you both honor and acknowledge and sort of reject on a certain level. And I'm getting that rejection is a habit that you have that was instilled by a parent figure or a family member.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's the rejection of your own sensitivity and the judgment of your own sensitivity that keeps you from it's the only actual problem here. The only actual problem is the judgment remaining of your own sensitivity. If every time you were sensitive, you were loving and kind to the part of yourself that was sensitive, you would have no other problems. Now, what that requires of you, in a way, is that you go against the very grain of the world around you. I'm not saying necessarily at home, I'm saying like at work and in the culture, you know, because we're not taught to like honor our sensitivity. We're taught to push forward and get the job done.
Suck it up. Yeah.
Suck it up. Yeah. Put your feelings aside, shut up and get that money for the school or whatever, you know? So, you know, this is a process and a practice, but please know from the highest levels of the divine light here, from your team of guides and angels supporting you, they're just like, if only you knew, beloved, this is how they say it. If only you knew how beautiful your gifts are and how beautiful your sensitivity is and how important it is for the health and the wellness of the world to get to experience your beautiful heart. If only you knew the gift you would be giving every moment of the day if you never again felt obligated to pretend.
Wow. See, I knew I was going to cry, Des.
Yeah, the crying is beautiful and is welcome here. And it is the doorway to your liberation. So it's not only welcome, it's needed. This is the truth of, and you know what? As you feel those feelings, there's more of the beyond spiritual energy dropping in and opening into, your heart is opening so you can receive more actual divine spiritual light now. That's how it works.
That's amazing.
And that's the gift of letting the heart break open. That's where the light can come in. So, yeah. Now, let me see. There's one more piece. There's something here. If you would be up for it, Kelly, if you're willing, if you could feel into, this will sound a little whatever, but if you could feel into your womb right now, we're going to bring some healing light in there for a second. Just kind of feeling into your own kind of uterus area. Oh, good. And just imagine all the muscles in that part of the body really letting go and receiving some nurturance and some love here. They tend to be a little clamped up and tight and contracted, almost like you're bracing for something. And this is common for a woman in this culture, A, and a sensitive in this culture, B. Yeah, that's really nice. Well, the woman's womb is when it's open and receptive and not guarding against potential threats, which unfortunately it often does out of necessity. When the woman's womb is open and receptive, the divine light is so bright. The divine light that can flow through the body. Imagine that the womb acts like a kind of battery to the crown chakra, which is here at the top of the head. And the crown chakra is what connects you to the all that is, or the subtler realms, or the great beyond, or the light of the love of God, or whatever you want to call it. So once again, when the womb is open and receptive, it acts like a battery to the crown chakra. And then the crown chakra, the light, if you picture like a bright white light at the top of your head, which is that opening to the divine, acts like a battery right back to the womb. So they serve one another, but they can't help one another when one or the other is closed down. Your feelings, beloved, are the midway point between the all that is and your body. Your feelings are the midway point between the divine and the mundane. Your feelings are the doorway to everything that matters. Please, we beg you, as an ambassador to women, which you often are, not to shut down the very doorway that you carry in your womb. And your heart. Lastly, we wish to offer this information, which is to say that remember or know, please, maybe for the first time, divine light is not about woo-woo abstractions, nor is it about wearing some outfit or speaking in a kind of voice or pretense or religion. Rules, dogma, structure, control. Divine light is like it's like the electrical current that lights up the car of your body. It's what turns your sensitive feelings into joy. It's what turns your sensitivity and your broken, open heart into bright light that animates you, thereby lighting up the world as you walk through it. So when your heart is broken open and you feel raw and you wish not to feel, rather than not feeling, we would encourage you to say to us, the divine, the all that is, your guides, an angel, anything bigger, brighter, subtler than that which is human. Speak to us from your heart and say, please, would you come to me here where my heart is broken right now? Light, divinity, consciousness, call us whatever you like to call us. Would you come to me right here where my heart is broken open right now? And we always will. And in the moment of so doing, you are lightened and the heaviness you are carrying is released. The only thing we ask of you is that you ask. Why? Because you have free will. We would never invade your space to solve your problems for you. We are not rude. All you must do is ask. Not because you should, not because it's right or good even, but because it brightens you and lightens your load. If ever you found yourself desiring to be in community with people who do some kind of asking of the something beyond of whatever they ask, we see for you that science of mind might be a great way to go. No, it's not Scientology. It's very different. It's not creepy in any way. It's science of mind. And there's a couple science of mind churches, they call them, like in your area, like down the street, actually. It's very sort of like liberal, conscious, woke, awake, politically activated community that uses a lot of positive affirmation and mystical transmission all at once without being dogmatic and annoying. So anyway, if ever you were looking, I was looking, they're showing me like, this or that, but then that one lights up the most. Okay, just FYI. Any other questions you had or things you wanted to ask or responses to any of that? Anything at all?
Well, I mean, that was really powerful, first of all. It still feels this way. And it seems so appropriate to what I'm dealing with in the moment and have been. Just, I am used to saying, you've given your, like when I journal, I give myself some time to feel the feelings and then I'm done. Or I say I'm done in a practical way, and I have to remember it's not always practical. It's just, or has a time limit. Just need to feel it until the cycle is through, and I don't do that for myself. I feel like now I'm looking back, I've almost scheduled it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So to me, that's a good reminder to keep open and maybe, keep journaling. But I think I get too wrapped up in the cerebral part of healing, and I don't just let it flow and let it be. I'm trying to push it too much. So to me, that's what that just made me think of as far as authenticity is not forcing. I mean, I really want to, that revelation was so key for me, knowing that, I'm not actually an asshole. Somebody told me I was when I was a kid. And I thought that, and I thought it was true until a couple months ago that secretly I'm kind of a dick, and I didn't realize that until a couple months ago that, wow, I'm not. I'm actually not. But I've been behaving as if I am. And I need to, it's something in me I need to cover very deeply. So
I see.
The habits are still there and I'm aware intellectually, but I'm just beginning the journey of being aware.
I understand.
In my body.
There's a little teaching that comes up here that helps me a lot and might be relevant for you, which is to say that, they say like, anyone who ever calls you anything, like if someone points at you and goes, you're being this, or you're like this, it's because that's what they are. And it's so painful to carry it that they feel they can like spew it out of their body by pointing at you. And so our task is to not internalize what they've said, but to understand that it was what they were carrying that was so painful to them. They tried to vomit it out on you to liberate themselves. And that doesn't make it okay. But anybody calling you any name is carrying that name themselves. And it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, this was this is a caretaker who was very, pained. And she was a gaslighter, which I think is the hardest part of that. Because when you're a kid, you don't know. You just trust the people who are taking care of you. Or
Definitely.
So I've never been able to trust myself. And so I've gotten that I mean, I'm also kind of fiery inside and understand that from a very young age that was bullshit and stupid. But some of it stuck around. And so I'm just, exploring that now and seeing, okay, this is very freeing, but at the same time, there's a lot stuck.
That's right. And they want to remind you, just back to the beginning of what they were saying, is like, you never have to judge yourself for how angry you are and how hurt you are. That's normal. What you have to do is feel that anger and that hurt, not think about it or just name it, but feel it. Because in the feeling of it, it processes through, and then all that's left is light. And that's real. That's just like the science of emotional processing. It just goes that way.
Yeah, figuring out how to feel it when I've been avoiding it for a long time will be the job of me and my therapist, I think.
Yep.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right. Any last quickies before we close up?
No, I think that was amazing.
Uh-oh. One more thing.
Oh.
So needs. Okay. They want me to send you a needs list. Have you ever seen a needs list? Okay. I'm going to send you a needs list and a feelings list. They're like, it would behoove you to practice stating your needs where it is safe to do so. Desmond, therapy, certain friends here. Excuse me. Because part of your abuse, part of what it did, or your trauma, is it taught you to believe that you don't get to have needs, particularly if they're sensitive and emotional. Those are like wrong and bad. And so practicing just saying like, wow, I actually need some attention right now. I need some alone time. I need to be angry. I need dinner, whatever it is. But owning the need as a feeling in your womb is what they're telling me. Like, in other words, feeling down into the pit of your like stomach and below that even. And like really owning it as a feeling and going, fuck, I need water. I need sleep. I need connection. I need physical touch. I need love. all of the needs, both physical and less obvious, both physical, emotional, energetic, spiritual, mental, and otherwise, it would be an excellent practice for you to be continually feeling and stating them just for yourself and with those who it feels safe to do so with. It'll feel corny and cheesy as you learn to do it, and you'll judge it in your mind, but hopefully you'll give yourself the gift of less and less judgment around it, keeping in mind that in the realm of oneness, where nothing is separate and the chair is made of molecules and your arm is made of molecules and Desmond is molecules and the microphone is molecules. In the way scientifically that everything is just freaking energy moving around, atomic particles moving, so too are emotions, atomic particles moving. So too are your needs. They are just as real as the chair you're sitting on. So if you were to try to deny the chair you were sitting on, you'd stand all day and suffer. Similarly, when you deny your needs, you stand all day and suffer. And this is one of the ways inauthenticity can show up for you, is in the form of denying your needs because you were trained to do so. Does this make sense?
Absolutely.
Going on and on. Okay. All right. Okay. They didn't want me to hang up before we did that. So let me close the records here.
That was great. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. So we want to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion, the lords of the records for their point of view, and the Holy Spirit of light for all knowledge and healing. I want to make a special thank you to it's like the kindness and the light that descended into Kelly's body as we traveled into the conversation more deeply. There was a real beautiful light that just came in and touched down into the womb and lined up your crown, and it was just very beautiful. We ask now that you return Kelly to herself now. All of Kelly's energy returns to herself. We ask that Kelly be returned to her complete human wholeness now. The divine portal and the Akashic records for Kelly Trotter McNeese are now closed. Amen. The divine portal and the Akashic records for Kelly Trotter McNeese are now closed. Amen. The divine portal and the Akashic records for Kelly Trotter McNeese are now closed. Amen. 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 So it is. It was really beautiful the way I always get this last little nugget of insight as the records are closing and people's energy is like pulling out of my field. And this time it was like this awareness of what we were talking about, like with my long ago abusive ex and some recent shit I've been going through. And then, all of it tying together in the ways of like just the honoring of self and the real deep love of self. It's just and the womb healing that came through. It's like so connected to the womb healing I'm receiving all the time by living on this land I live on right now. So, it's just so apropos and feels all very connected. So, and it was beautiful to watch us get to that by the end of this process. I don't know if that makes any sense, but.
Yeah, that was amazing. It feels, I feel lighter and a little less conflicted about what to do.
Oh, hooray.
Yeah.
That is the best news.
That's wonderful.
Well, thank you for being with us, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you. It was nice to finally meet you and see you both.
You too.
On Zoom.
I guess you're not a figment of Desmond's imagination.
I mean, you never know. I still could not be real.
Oh, kisses. I mean, you were definitely, though, tasked with our catchphrase for our sign off, which is do your work. Like you were given got some work to do. Here you go. Here's your work.
Yes.
Do it.
Yep.
Which I always love.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all so much.
May I butt in?
Of course.
As the least impartial observer ever, I just want to say that Kelly practices a lot of the things that the record keepers brought up, but I think gave her
Permission.
gave her permission to own it.
Yeah.
You know, like she's, she journals, she like she said, she she kind of sets time aside for it so she can leave it there, but now she's maybe given a little more permission to walk around with some of those feelings and thoughts and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out to the listeners that Kelly puts in a lot of work.
She's already doing the work.
She's doing a lot of work, and just encouraging her to take that work out in the world, I think is a great gift for her.
Hallelujah.
Thanks, baby.
What a loving, supportive husband.
Yeah. He's pretty badass. Okay, so I'll let you guys close out.
We're out of
We're
here.
pretty much done.
Do your work.
Do your work.
Do your goddamn work. We love you. Bye.
Bye.
What are you asking for? All of the answers? Say what? All of the answers? Yeah, all the answers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Please email us with your questions so that we have questions to answer in the Akashic Records. Our email address is allanswerspod@gmail.com. That's allanswerspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook or Twitter, it's @allanswerspod, @allanswerspod. Thank you. You don't have to fill space.
I know, because he'll edit it out.
Exactly.
That was a Sounds Awesome production.